Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this very small but very happy Community Services Committee. Um, right, apologies. Apologies, we've got...
We've received apologies from Councillor Bayliss, from Councillor Tom Corbyn, who's being substituted by Councillor Wells, apologies from Councillor Broom, and apologies from Councillor McGrath, who's been substituted by Councillor Hock.
Public questions and statements.
We've received no public questions or statements.
Councillor questions or statements.
No councillor questions or statements have been received.
Okay. Minutes of previous meeting. Is everybody content? Are you content with them? Minutes of the last meeting? Yep. Yep. We're all content with that. Declarations of interest.
No declarations of interest have been received.
Dispensations.
No dispensations have been agreed.
Okay, chair's announcements. That's me. Oh, right. So we've just heard just now that the King is been diagnosed with cancer. So that's obviously a sad point, but we shall just see what happens with that. So my announcements are that I'm always impressed and heartened by the activities of the community services team, whether it's running groups from the Bemerton Heath Centre or the lunch club up at St Michael's, which I do pop in on when my commitments allow. We have youth clubs at Bishopdown, Bemerton Heath, and now the restart of the LGBT Youth Club, which it's been a pleasure to volunteer at previously. And we will be, to mark LGBT History Month, we will be putting the LGBT flag on this wonderful building yet again. So that's quite a good thing to do. It was lovely at Christmas to join forces with the Bemerton Heath Residents Association and Harlequins to provide some support for the Santa's Grotto, which was attended by over 100 children who all felt the Christmas cheer. And Sarah was a lovely little elf with me, weren't you, Sarah? The Guildhall has seen lots of improvements under Jo Wood's leadership, and it has been a real pleasure to work with her. And I'm sad to see her go, but wish her well. The Guildhall staffing is undergoing a lot of reshaping with the new chief executive and a new finance officer. And I'm sure once each one settles into the roles, we will see some invigorated ideas. The Community Services Committee is a place where members of the Salisbury community can make contact with ideas and aspirations with support to grow. I look forward to more residents contacting us in the upcoming year. Community conversations, that's their own Adele, I believe.
So Adele will be speaking today. Adele's from the transformation team at Wiltshire Council. I'm really happy to have her here. We've been crossing paths and overlapping work for the last, how many months? A number of months on Bemerton Heath. And I'm really, really pleased that she's here to update us all on the work that she's been doing.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you for having me here today. I'm genuinely really excited about sharing the prospect of the work with you. So like Sarah said, my name's Adele and I am the Community Conversations Lead for Bemerton Heath. And obviously I work for Wiltshire Council. So before I go on to community conversations, I think it'd be really helpful to share just a little bit about Wiltshire Council's business plan. The business plan represents a 10-year ambition for the county, and I think it will provide you with a little bit of a context as to why we're doing community conversation. So the business plan for Wiltshire Council sets out our mission, how we will measure our achievement of it in the immediate future, and the key themes that guide our work. But our plan really does recognise that we can't do this in isolation. We can't do this alone. And working with partners like yourselves, fire, police and justice, the NHS, local businesses, voluntary sector, schools, military, particularly within our Wiltshire area is really important and is critical to our success. So our guiding themes within our business plan include prevention and early intervention. And that means taking a long-term view and focusing really on what is right for Wiltshire. Investing in prevention and early intervention to tackle issues, to tackle the problems before they get worse is key. And taking a whole life approach to planning and providing services for our residents and with our residents, I'd like to add to that. The next big theme is improving social mobility and tackling inequalities. So in everything we do, we should consider the impact of the action of social mobility and ask how we can tackle the disparities in opportunities that exist within Wiltshire. Understanding our communities is really key. That's another theme. So we want to ensure that our dialogue with communities is always open, transparent and inclusive, and that our dialogue is in the right place and at the right time so that our services can meet our local distinctive needs. And working together, we want to design and deliver our services in partnership with service users, local communities and other public sector partners where appropriate. And we can collectively consider how to integrate our work to get maximum value for public sector spend and plan the use of our estate together. So if we go on to the next slide, please. So discussions about community conversations, the approach and the planning started way back in spring 2022. And that was with lots of people involved in that, our leadership team, partners, voluntary sector colleagues, and also a level of resident engagement took place at that time. Now, I started doing community conversations in Bemerton Heath in August 2022. And a colleague of mine called Andrew, he started within the Studley Green area of Trowbridge, the community area in Trowbridge at the same time. So what is it? You can see on there, it's a community-led, asset-based community development approach. It's about focusing on what's strong, building upon these strengths that exist within the community, connecting and building trusted relationships with community leaders and residents and supporting them to harness the power that is within the community. Everybody in the community has something to offer, and we really believe that. Another aim is to be as co-productive as possible. We can't always deliver co-production, but we always try and aim to get to that point. And a system-wide approach, so we can understand the lived experience of residents from the widest possible lens. And we know that if we do that, then we can ensure that the community needs inform community-based solutions, which we all know will then create capacity to solve those community issues. For me, community conversations is, I've been doing it now for a while, and I'll go on to what the kind of guiding principles of community conversations are, but it is about focusing very much on the strength from within. It is grassroots, bottom up. As we know, co-production can be clunky, can take time, but it really is worth the investment so that the community there can see the value that they all have. So the graphic that you saw on the previous one, you don't need to go back, but that shows the kind of guiding principles of community conversations. We tried to make it so it is as accessible as possible, hence the reason for kind of putting it on a visual. Picture says 1,000 words, right? So that's what we wanted to do with that one. So our principles are about complementing and connecting. But look, Sarah's team, I have to mention, are doing a fabulous job there in Bemerton Heath. Her team are doing lots of connecting and lots of engagement already. And this isn't about rolling in and doing something different. This is about how we effectively work together, work in partnership, because ultimately Wiltshire and Salisbury all want the best for their residents. And I think this is a really fantastic opportunity for Wiltshire and Salisbury City Council to collaborate, to enable us to maximise on those opportunities that support residents in Bemerton Heath to help live their best lives. The work is definitely centred on people's lived experiences. We focus on what they care about and what matters to them, not their problems. It should benefit everyone, and it should be led by everyone, and it should be led by the people to make sure that we are being inclusive, to make sure that everybody is welcome and that nobody gets turned away. We want to create a buzz of excitement, energy and hope. And I feel that we've already started to do that in Bemerton Heath, that residents can feel and they can see a positive change. It's all about deeds and not words. Achieving a shared sense of belonging, developing relationships, creating opportunities for people to come together and respecting and caring for each other. And it should always be focusing on what's strong and striving to make each community the best it can be and working to remove that stigma. So being resourceful and making the best of what we have and being curious, brave and creative and positivity in that and challenging each other when we need to and being constructive. It's about joining up services and sharing the learning to improve services for the future. It's about being collaborative, supportive and co-productive and cooperative. And going at the pace of the participants is really key. Taking them on a journey, not rushing them, making sure that they're part of that journey. Always learning, making mistakes is okay too. So learning, making mistakes, but reflecting and learning to get it better next time. And it's a long-term commitment. It has to be sustainably focused, ensuring that it is there for the long term. Whatever change intervention we do is not a flash in the pan. That's where I finish with that one. Sorry, I think could you go to the next slide, please? Which is what I was just talking about there. So I've just broken down that one there. If you could move forward to the next one, please. Thank you. So this is just to show a little route map of where I've been, what we've been doing in its simplest terms. So my work started in Bemerton Heath in October 2022. And the area was new to me. I have to admit, I have no local connection with Bemerton Heath. I live the other side of the plain. I came in with fresh eyes. And I've got to know the area as best I can. And my main focus was to understand, the strengths of Bemerton Heath, the opportunities, but also through that, I've understood from speaking and engaging to the community what the barriers are too. And I think I've been very privileged to have had so many fabulous conversations with amazing residents, partners and community leaders in the time that I've been doing this work. And these conversations with residents, they've shared their interests because they want to help to make their community a better place. They want to get involved in volunteering. Residents, they want to set up activities or simply have conversations with their own families, friends and neighbours about what they love about Bemerton Heath and what they think could make it even better. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this shows a little bit, and I'm sorry you can't read that from where you are, but this is about collective resident feedback. And it shows some of the collective feedback that's been received through engagement with Bemerton residents. And there's a lot on there that won't surprise you, I'm sure, if you know Bemerton Heath. But there's also a lot on there that they really, really felt passionate about and they really cared deeply about. Some of the issues that they raised, things like dog poo came up frequently. See Caroline nodding. Dog poo on the parks. It's a big topic in Bemerton. Fly tipping. Not much for young people to do. Frequent feedback, not just by young people, but also by adults that live within the area. The rising cost of living, difficulty to pay the bills, the choosing between eating and eating. The lack of access to quality, reasonably priced food, the fact that you have to get on 2 buses to get to Aldi or to Lidl, the accessibility of that, people have been finding extremely difficult. Isolation came up frequently, not just elderly people's isolation, but younger people too. A lot of people on the Heath feel isolated. Slingshots came up, issues with slingshots and other ASB issues. Quality of the housing came up, poor mental health, and the cost of transport, but lots of positives. So it highlights the strength of the community and their overwhelming need for connections with each other, how much they value the activities that Salisbury City Council, Rise 61 and St Michael's deliver. how much they value their green spaces. They love their green spaces, but ultimately they want to make them more purposeful and they want more on those green spaces for people to do. And they want to have places to sit and hang out and chat with friends and family across the heath. That was, so again, green spaces, connections with the earth, connections with people. Those were the things that really came out and stood out a lot throughout those conversations. Next slide, please. Thank you. Just a couple of examples of some things that I've been involved in help support set up. So Grand Family Support Group, which I know Sarah has also helped the individual with and setting it up in the Bemerton Centre. We've got Brothers of Bemerton, Bob, great name. Men's group, again set up by a local resident who felt that this group could help to support local men who are looking for connections and as a way to improve their mental health. So Bob's quite new, Grand Families is quite new. But people are starting to know about it, and I think, like particularly the men's group, it takes a certain amount of bravery to make that first step to go, but they are going, which I think's fantastic. Next slide, please. There's some events. So we've run several events to encourage participation, conversations and connections. Majority of this shows a beauty in Bemerton walk we did back in spring 2023. We had Woodlands School and Sarah Academy joined us for that walk with several residents. It was just a fabulous day. Well, the morning was, it rained when we went out on a little afternoon walk, but it was a fabulous day. The folly, we walked around the folly and it became really clear how valued the folly is to all the local people and the opportunities there are in the folly. Lots of young people talking about how they would like to be able to have, you know, summer classrooms in there and, you know, further activities that could extend their learning back into nature, which I thought was very special. And they're really keen. And also what came out of that was they're keen to do more. They wanted more. They wanted more opportunities to go out and engage and do stuff together, not just with their own kind of ages and peers, but with the wider community. Next slide, please. This slide's to represent beautiful Bemerton, which is just a fabulous thing. Which so I got to know a couple of community members a while back, and I signed them up reluctantly, I'll say to them initially, with the purpose of them starting their own community conversations. And they've gone from strength to strength. We started to think about how we could do something that is more local, and the beautiful Bemerton group was born. They've set up so many things. They've set up Neighbourhood Watch. They're in the process of setting up a Folly Watch. They've worked with Mostyn from your team to get trees planted in Pinewood Close. They delivered a Christmas party to celebrate their achievements. They've got a really popular and active Facebook page, and they're always promoting themselves to get more community interest in volunteering. And they're doing this because they value the green spaces and they know how important they are to the local community. And they also, so these two lovely individuals that I originally met that have gone on to develop beautiful Bemerton have also recently secured 2 apprenticeships in our public health team in Wiltshire Council. So which is amazing, life-changing for them, but thoroughly deserved, because there were 2 incredible humans that really deserve to have those positions. So they are doing public health, but also from the perspective of beautiful Bemerton. So they're coming with a 2-pronged approach, and they're passionate about promoting the wider health benefits of connecting with nature, creating community connections, and being active within their community green spaces. And next slide, please. Thank you. So this is one that I'm really keen to talk to you about. So this slide here shows a Bright Ideas community panel. So about 6 months after starting community conversations in Bemerton Heath, so around the summer last year. There was an opportunity arose with the allocation of levelling up funds that came through from central government in the form of UK shared prosperity funds, particularly for communities. Because this money came along and we managed to secure some money for Bemerton Heath, which lined up really nicely, to be honest, with the fact that I've been in Bemerton Heath trying to build relationships with community members and already formed some really good relationships, that Bemerton Heath became the first UK SPF panel to go live within Wiltshire. We've got the purpose of the panel really is to set up processes that enable the community to submit, deliver Bemerton Heath specific community projects, and the community panel have autonomy over which projects are delivered. The whole point is it's their panel, it's their community, you know, they're the ones that know what is right for them, what they want. It shouldn't be Wiltshire Council making those decisions. It's down to the community, and that also ensures that what they'll choose will be right and sustainable for Bemerton Heath. So we have a panel that is made up of a mix of community leaders and residents. Caroline is on my panel. Thank you, Caroline. The panel members are all fabulous. They're very passionate about supporting the process to help deliver sustainable improvements in Bemerton Heath that are meaningful to the community. We get together once a month. We have some quite animated discussions, I'd say, about some of the bids and about some of the things that we want to achieve. But we're now at a really good position where we've had 15 projects submitted, which is quite a lot. But these include, but aren't limited to, so requests for funding to support an existing craft group, which is run in the Bemerton Centre called Kaleidoscope. The setup of a new women's group. I've been asked for support for an SEND garden in Sarum Academy. A pump track has come up, a slingshot club, a splash pad, disabled access to the community garden in Gainsborough Close, improvements to support the Christmas float that goes around Bemerton Heath, sign language training rolled out around the community, particular target on the schools, the education side from primary to secondary, which supports really nicely when British Sign Language hits the GCSE curriculum at September 2025. There's a request for, there's a project application there for a mugger on Pinewood, because they'd like to see something happen there versus what they've got in Gainsborough. We've had a community bus application come through from a resident who's, I have to say, 90 years old and has put so much work and effort into it. He's just incredible. So that gives you an idea of the projects that have come forward, and we're ready, or the panel's ready. They've already signed off some of them, the smaller ones. So we're at a point where we're really discussing them now and discussing, you know, the kind of viability, sustainability of each of those projects. The money does need to be allocated to projects. So we have got a time frame of that, March next year, March 2025. So as a panel, we've got to start making sure that we allocate and spend those funds. So you can see, so I've told you there's a number of things going on with community conversations, which I think are massively exciting. And I think there is already, you know, a little bit buzz of excitement going on in Bemerton. Things are starting to feel good. We also, to let you know what's in the pipeline, in the process, in the planning stage of piloting a free community transport from Bemerton to Aldi. And that would be twice a week, a little minibus that would pick up around Bemerton Heath and would drop them off free of charge at Aldi, so that people can start to access reasonably priced healthy food, which is one of the main things that came back from the community of a need. And that will be worked out in partnership with Community Transport Southwest. And from a wider community perspective, the team is expanding. So last week, 3 new MEs started their role, and they're going to be working in other areas of deprivation across Wiltshire, Chippenham Queens, Studley Green, Trowbridge and Melksham North. And which is really exciting that we're growing and expanding and learning, and we don't always get it right, but that's okay. We go back to the drawing board and we'll try again, because we want to be, we want to be brave and we want to push some boundaries. And I like the motto: if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always got. And I think it's great that we have this opportunity to try and do something new in Bemerton Heath. And that's pretty much me at the end of what I would like to say. But if anyone would like to contact me, you can email me anytime. I'm often here in Bemerton. I'd love to talk to you. Or you can get in touch with Sarah and she can reach out to me and we can have some more discussions. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Adele. Does anybody have any questions? And I'll sum up at the end. Councillor King.
I just want to say well done. That's fantastic. It's really good, because I did some work some years ago on Bemerton. It all felt a bit dead, but I'm sure it's really livening up. So there isn't a place that people meet kind of regularly. The panel meets regularly,
Yeah.
but the other, and so from there, sorry, I'm just trying to get my head around it. From there, all the little groups meet wherever they want to meet, do they? They just...
Yeah, we don't generally have. We don't have any set meeting times. We've tried that and it didn't really work, to be honest. You can advertise it and a lot of people don't come. The idea really is the more people that we bring on board and start having those conversations, become ambassadors for doing it, then there will be pockets of people all over Bemerton Heath. It will grow. Just to let you know, I have got some help. So somebody, health improvement coach, Mesky, history of Bemerton Heath, you might know her. She's going to be supporting me 3 days a week. So we this is the year we want to get a lot more engagement happening in Bemerton Heath, because we realise we haven't reached barely such a service. There's a lot of people that we'd really love to talk and engage with. So 2024 is the year that we want to really start getting out and reaching as many people in the community as we can. And if they tell us they want to meet regularly, in whatever way, whatever form that is, we will do what's right, what the community would like to do.
Also, do you know, you may not know, do you know if Wiltshire Council have the idea of expanding this kind of thing to other estates? I mean, in my ward, we've got Bishop Down, and when I did a surgery there was a real kind of wanting by the community to do something and get together, but how do they do that and who initiates it? And so do you know if there's any plans to extend this kind of work across other parts of the city?
I don't think there are any big plans to extend across the city as such, although there will be pockets of areas that I know we're interested in working with, because we all know that Bemerton Heath and the Friar, and they're obvious areas of deprivation, but we know across Wiltshire, Salisbury, there are pockets. So, our intention is to try and understand those areas more and to work with those areas, as best we can. But I'd be happy to have a dialogue with you around that and see how we could support that, or we could give you some advice on how to get that conversation started. Thank you.
Councillor Hock.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Lovely top, by the way. Love the top. So it's all exciting, all very good what you're doing. So can you give me a few examples that over the years you have dealt with and some success stories that completed in Bemerton Heath?
Some
out of many, I'm sure you did so many work. So can you single out one or two examples that this is what you have done and this is the success story?
So I've been in Bemerton Heath for only 15 months. So it's very difficult to give you an outcome of or outputs as such regarding within such a short time. I've shown you there, we did the Brothers of Bemerton, which is a men's group, which already the outcome for that is the fact that we have people attending and we have people that would normally be isolated and stuck at home that are now coming out and engaging and saying that it's improving their mental health. So this is a slow burn. This is something that's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think the fact that we're connecting the right people and more people are coming forward and more people are getting involved in volunteering and more people are starting to access their green spaces and do things, for me, that is evidence enough that things are changing, that there is success.
I agree. 15 months is not a long time, but it's always nice to see where we can see that this was the challenge and this is what has been faced.
Yeah.
So apart from that, can you, within the 15 months, can you point out a singular challenge that really needs focusing on Bemerton Heath? Because I'm a Bemerton Heath resident as well.
Yeah.
So, is there one that you can point out that there is
I think the one I mentioned, which is the ones that the Bemerton Heath residents have talked to me about, is the food inequalities piece, is the fact that because there's low vehicle ownership, it's difficult for people in Bemerton to get to Lidl and Aldi to get reasonably priced food. That is one that comes up frequently, that there is limited choice for them on the Heath to be able to access the food. As you know, there's only 3 small little supermarkets, convenience stores or whatever. So that's the one that for me makes a big difference. If you want to live a healthy life, you need to have, good, adequate food in your belly, right? So that's one. And I think the fact that we are moving with getting a pilot scheme on board to test to get this minibus running, which has already been signed off that we can start there. I think that is evidence that, we're taking this seriously and actually we're listening to what the community is telling us about that. And we'll pilot it and we'll see where we go from there.
And one final one, the Bright Ideas. What's the budget or what sort of money they can apply if there is a group or if they had any idea? Is there a limit? Or?
There's no limit. There's no limit, but it will go to the panel and it will get prioritised according to obviously need for the community. But there is no limit. We've got £500 to, well, a pump track is, as you know, could be £200,000. So,
and that funding comes from Wiltshire Council?
The funding's coming from central government through their levelling up funds, UK Shared Prosperity Funds.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Councillor Wells.
Yes, thank you. I was really interested to hear what you've presented this evening, because I used to be a head of Pembroke Park School, and although it's sort of off the heath, the catchment area is very much Bemerton Heath. And just, you mentioned that you've been involved with Woodland School and Serum Academy. Have you had any contact with Pembroke Park School?
Yes, I have. And I found it quite hard to engage with some of the schools, to be honest. I found it quite difficult for them. A number of schools that I've contacted haven't come back to me on a couple of occasions. I did have to almost stalk Mr. Kitley at Woodland School because he also didn't come back to me. So I was a regular, it's going to sound wrong, but I was almost a regular at playtime. So I knew he would be out of the classroom, so I could go, Mr. Kitley. So if you can help me get into that school, that would be amazing.
I think I might be able to. I met there's a relatively new head teacher there who's been in post for 2 years, so that when you initiated this project, she would have been new in post in a very challenging school, and they've just had a good Ofsted. Amazing. And I think she'll be looking outwards a little bit more into the community from now on. And I've been invited over to meet some of my former pupils, and I'll talk to her about this, because it's certainly something like this would have been extremely valuable when I was there as a head, because I do feel that to a certain extent people feel quite isolated at times on Bemerton Heath. They don't go into town that often. So this is definitely something that will enhance the community, and I'll certainly put her in touch with you when I go and visit.
That'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, it's a blessing. I've lived on Bemerton Heath 30 odd years. The Folly is my back garden, basically. And there's been several iterations since my children were at school where I got involved with the PTA, and then we'd get involved with different groups that wanted to do the Folly, and then becoming a counsellor and encouraging wildlife groups, etc., to work in the folly. And it's the work is so important, and the sense of community, all of the slide that was up there before with the negatives and the positives, it really is a misrepresentation, because the negatives really are a very small proportion, but that small proportion gets blown up to epic proportions. But the good work that's done, whether it's Sarah's team, Adele, community projects, it is massive. And for me as the councillor, both at Wiltshire level and city, I am so proud of everything that everybody does up there.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Communities team update. I think that's you now, Sarah.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you to Adele for coming this evening, and I think, apologies, I think you'll recognise a lot of the language from other reports that I've given here. You know, you really working with the assets and the skilled, the situated expertise that we have in our communities. So I hope and believe that going forward, a lot of the work and ideas will start to merge and meld together, and that we'll work together to work out the hows of the ideas and support as many of the residents on the Heath as we can, between ourselves and a number of the other really amazing organisations and groups up on the Heath. So exciting things to come, I think. So on to my update. So I'm going to start with some stats, and this is largely because I haven't actually been before this committee for a little while with budget consultations and whatnot. And so what you're able to get is a little bit of a picture of a comparison between our quarters 1, 2 and 3 from last calendar from 2022, and then quarters 1, 2 and 3 from 2023. So from April up to the end of the calendar year in December. So just a reminder, as you've not seen this breakdown for a little while, sessions speaks for itself. That is the number of actual sessions of work that have been delivered. Participation instances, that is every time we are in front of a person. So that could be, you'll be 10 participation instances in a group of 10, etc. And then participation hours, that's a calculation of how many hours we would have been delivering if those sessions were one-to-one. So that's how many hours spent with individuals. And really, that's just a way of forming a comparison for development. So that might be able to tell us, for example, whether we are meeting more people for less time, you know, short, sharp interactions, or if our participation numbers have leveled out, but our participation hours have gone up, it means we're spending a long time with those people and developing longer term projects. So that's why I choose those measures. So I think by and large, you'll all be aware that over the course of this year, we've had various vacancies through the communities team. So at no point this year have we been fully staffed. And yet the team have managed across the board to increase our participation levels, to increase the numbers of sessions. I think around this time last year, I sat before you and said, you know, what we're aiming for is essentially we're delivering at least one session for every single calendar day of the year. And between supported events, active lifestyles work, we are well above that. So there is something happening for the equivalent of every single day. In particular, I'd just like to point out that, you know, I know Tom Gailey has left our fold, but for quite a large portion of this year, those activity numbers were just him. So just an individual coach and managing a programme of work there. So that is really quite an achievement. So what we're seeing is, you know, slight builds in the numbers of sessions we're delivering. So our community development stats are us, managed projects delivered by us. The participation hours statistic is worth noting because that is a significant increase, which led me to double check my maths a number of times. Yes, but the reason for that is significantly higher numbers attending our like long longer events. So the numbers of people attending our fun days, etc., went through the roof. It's also reflective of increased numbers at our regular sessions. So all of those have built to really strong numbers over this period of time. In active lifestyles, so this would include all of our sports sessions, but also what we've got in there and is partially responsible for the increases. We're working in partnership with the Ramblers Wellbeing Walkers. So we are supporting training their volunteers, helping them with a promotion, connecting them with the Ramblers Association guidance. And so we are now seeing their work as part of our work. Supported events, for clarity, is where these are events led by other organisations or groups in which we provide support either with facilities and resources, but by and large by our team actually being there and delivering part of the work. A great example of that is next Monday. We'll be down at the Harlequins at the Wiltshire Creative led Family Fiesta, but we will be providing some of that activity. It is worth noting that at large-scale events, we've switched up how we count some of our participation numbers at those events that we're not delivering, sort of averaging out a shorter engagement instance. So we're not just willy-nilly going, oh, there were 300 people there and they were all there for 4 hours. We're being much more specific about that. The supported sessions this year, where the participation instances haven't gone up a great deal, a lot of our supported sessions are now including one-to-one support sessions that are running from the Bemerton Heath Centre. So fear-free, some SEND support from Springfields. So that kind of maintains, whilst there might be more sessions, the participation numbers don't go up in quite the same trajectory. But very important work. We're providing a safe space for those lone workers to work with vulnerable members of our community in a space that is staffed and manned, which is becoming increasingly important for the use of our community centres. Community centres aren't manned, they're not staffed. And voluntary sector organisations who, you know, are not necessarily brimming over with resources and funding, find that a massive resource to be able to be in a building where they know there are other people. So just moving over to the right-hand side, new engagements. These are known new engagements, so no guesswork here. When somebody signs up to participate with us, and we know that we've never worked with them before. So that's 1,635 brand new people through our services this year. 25 volunteers, and that's in our community development work. That's excluding the pantry. And 625 volunteering instances. For the first time, I've started using a calculation to quantify the value of that. So just those 625 volunteering, those 1,066 volunteering hours, it's, you know, if that was paid work, that's 15, nearly 16 grand's worth of work that is being done by volunteers in our team. And I think that's really worth valuing and noting. So at this point, I will pause about stats and see if anybody would like to ask me any questions.
Do we have any questions? Councillor King.
There's a number of volunteering hours. Is that over a month?
No, that's over a year. So if you added in the pantry volunteering hours, that would be much, much bigger, because we have a team of about 17 working weekly. So actually increasing volunteer participation across the rest of our programme is something I'd really like to work on over the next year.
Councillor Hogg.
Sarah, as always, you are doing a fantastic job. The numbers are very eye-watering. 20,841.
Yeah, remembering that if we were delivering them one-to-one, which we're not, we're delivering them in groups. So it's, you know, it's a statistical way of viewing.
That's almost like 57 hours per day, if we say 365 days.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hours and a lot of, well done. But we certainly see the pantry and everything else as well. It's everybody appreciates what you're doing as well. So, well, good.
I'd like to find a way to kind of merge the pantry stats and data in with this stuff, because it's sort of sitting separately currently in my reporting. But
that makes sense. Anybody else? More questions? Sarah, where do I start? I think you are an absolute phenomenal person. I think that the work that Tom did with all of his sessions and if I remember rightly, it was that the sessions would happen with support and then they were sort of homegrown sessions and people could set up a group, whether it's netball, football, whatever. Tom would go in, support them. Then when they were standing on their own 2 feet, he would pull back to to be able to do something else, which is what we all dream of. We want our communities to feel empowered to do these things. And it's great. And he is a sad loss to the team. He's gone to Sarah McCann.
He's not gone far. He's only over the road.
Yeah,
he's already been in twice.
He's only up the road, so he'll still be popping in. And so it's great, but the budget that he had for what he was trying to do was minuscule to the amount of work that that man put in to have the budget that he had and not be able to develop further. So, I mean, it's our loss, it's Sarah McAdamy's gain. And I mean, he's just amazing.
I'll make sure I pass that on. Shall I move on to the next slide?
Yeah, please carry on.
So, as you know, I'm now breaking down our work in line with the job roles. So we have Jane Wise, who's our Adults and Older People Community Development Officer. So just a very quick update here on the work that she's doing. I have to say she doesn't do it alone. All of the work in the community team overlaps all of the Community Development Officer's support. So Senior Youth Club continues to grow and is now widening to kind of self-initiated trips and social activities outside of the centre. So they meet with us every Monday, they play pool, etc. But now they're starting to self-initiate, which is exactly what you're talking about. The grand families, which has already been mentioned this evening. So I've been working with Sammy, whose idea this was, and helping her write a press release. She's hoping to relaunch in March and widen the reach to grandparents with sort of significant childcare responsibilities as well as those with parental rights. So that will be going out again. So it's just a little light touch, spending a bit of time. Sammy's never written a press release before, wouldn't know what to do with it. And that's all she needs, really. Also looking at the community cafe, which I'll go on to talk to a little more, but that was just a really lovely example at Christmas of working with the Baptist Church and welcoming people of all ages. Often when we have Christmas lunches, we have a room full of people of roughly the same age, and that just wasn't the case in this instance. There was people of all ages coming together. Some people brought their grandchildren with them. It was a real mixed bag, and it was just a really lovely example of, as Sherry has said in the infographic I've got next, it's become its own community, which is a really lovely thing to see. We've got our Beat the Winter Blues glass making workshops. This is something we do every January up at Bemerton Heath, which is purely for getting people out somewhere warm and social of an evening to do something creative with a focus on well-being and maybe taking a little bit of a reflection on things that are positive. We've also been working closely with Sarah Manor, who and again, this is a lovely example. We were approached by Sarah Manor. They wanted to do something for the community, and they turned to us as somebody who could connect them with those people. And I have to say, it was a very swish lunch offered to members of the community that we knew were isolated and weren't going to be engaging with activities like that over the Christmas period. We're working within the community cafe and alongside the pantry at the moment with Acorn Community Bank, and they have started training our financial inclusion volunteers. So within the next month or so, we will have 2 people working in the first and third week of the month out of the community cafe when the pantry is open, not exclusively for pantry members, but to offer benefits, advice and direct people to use benefits checkers, help people use their form to print out the thing they need to show to the person at the office. Small scale. There is now a new financial inclusion officer for Salisbury at Acorn Community Bank, which was part of a funding bid that myself and a number of other organisations supported the bank on. So they will have a supervisor that's Salisbury focused. The credit union hasn't had a presence in Salisbury since before the pandemic, and this is bringing it back, and their first physical contact will be through our community cafe. And then I think it's worth noting that our connections, referrals and signposting relationships with our community connectors, the Wellbeing and Prevention Team, Age UK, have been really, really significant in building the numbers that you've seen in the previous stats, particularly across our adult provision. You know, people are bringing people to our doors now. We're not looking. And it's been our partnership work with those organisations is, you know, 50% of the work. So we're going to start trying to summarise some of our projects. Now, I do appreciate that we may have made some errors with white tiny writing on some interesting colours, but lesson learnt. So the community cafe is something that we're going to try to start capturing as a model. So what's really lovely, again, as you were talking about earlier, is that the community cafe is Sherry, who's led that project and really moved it forward, is actually getting to the point where she's starting to take her steps away. So we've now got a volunteer team in doing all the food, the volunteer team there, and the members who are now officially volunteers who kind of make the room work and make people welcome. Our financial inclusion volunteers means that Sherry is really now shop flooring and chatting to people, and if people need signposting to something else. So she's not actually running it, or at least within the next few weeks she won't be, and that's what we were aiming for. And what's made that possible is, as you say, working with the people who are the regulars to be part of the welcoming committee, and that's there, you see that as part of their job of being there. And Sherry's done a great job at kind of moving them from, as Adele was saying, reluctant volunteers into people who really feel like, right, it's my space, why wouldn't I be doing this? So those are the people. And I think what's really important is probably the most diverse group of people that we work with as a council. You know, we have people who are homeless, people who are here with refugee status, older people, young people. We have family craft in the holidays and people bring their children. It's really both age and all demographics, probably the most diverse work that we do in connection with the pantry. So what happens there? So every other week there's an activity, but beyond that, it's just a space. So we're not imposing. The activities are generated and asked for by the people who are there. But then we do have relationships. We've had COVID flu boosters. Just next week, what's her name? Sarah Knott from the NHS Patient and Public Involvement and Engagement Directorate is coming because she knows that she can sit down and have a conversation with people that they never hear from in that space. So it's little things like that that make it a really valuable space. We're also trying to work through our technical error. We're also trying to work to connect these individual instances of a really good model of working out through the rest of our work. So last summer, the community cafe ran stands at all of our We Love Where We Live fun days. So they were then taking their skills and ideas out to other places and being valued in other ways. I have to say we've worked with Alzheimer's support with the Wellbeing and Prevention Team at Wiltshire Council, Elaborate, CAP, so many other partners that use that space as a regular thing, which means it always feels like there's a source of support available, and not just from the council. And so now we're at the point where it's reasonably self-sustaining, and so the people who are there are looking to, well, what else can we do? We involve them in our public art project. They're starting to think, well, what else can we do out in the city? And so Sherry's now going to shift over into kind of supporting that, but also with a view to capturing and replicating this as a model. So Sherry's already started reaching out to other community spaces to see if she can share that information about how it works and why it's successful. So those are the phases we're in. So I thought that was important to share. Are you happy for me to move on? I was feel like I should tell you who these people are. These are some of the members of the after school club, the Wednesday club up at Bemerton Heath, in just a couple of weeks ago, den building with me. So we were den building for an evening. But there's lots of, Hannah Downs, our children and families officer, has done some really great work in building partnerships with other organisations. So we're now working with Sounds Better CIC for Tuneful Tuesdays and Music Mondays, depending on which days the space is available, which is early years, kind of a wellbeing and music offer, with Nurture Circles, which has been so well received. That's wellbeing focused on the parents of babies, but with their babies. And our Spurgeon's partnership is, so we now have an information share working together agreement, which means we're able to refer families back and forward between our services. It also means that Spurgeon's will be sharing with us the work that they're doing on assessing the youth provision as they move into the family hub model, which is they will soon be covering a 0 to 19 age group rather than just the early years. Spurgeon's are going to become a really significant partner for us and many other organisations in the city. They will now be on the Youth Provision Forum because they fall into that age category, and are increasingly using our centres because they are moving into a communities model where they're not based in their own spaces. So this is one to watch, and perhaps I'll invite Spurgeon's along to this committee meeting at some point to talk about that work. Monday and Wednesday clubs are really well received and growing. Continuous trickle of new people from both estates coming and joining. And we've got some new opportunities. We're working with Kids Love Fit, who are Public Health commissioned, working with the paediatrics team up at the hospital to develop a healthy activities and information kind of course. And I think it's Little Pals. Is that what they're going to call it? No, not. I'm talking about the toddler group. Are they going to call it Little Pals? Because it's Little Angels over at St Michael's, isn't it? Yeah. So again, working with groups within the community who want to use our space for things we know we have a gap in provision for, like toddler groups. So next slide. Our young people work, just remembering that the Hangout members get additional opportunities on top of the regular weekly sessions. Again, working with partners. So we're providing one member of staff, the museum provides another member of staff, and the facilitation of creating their own exhibition for the museum. It's a slow burn, that one. It's going to be a long-term relationship because it's been about building the relationship with those young people, taking them to the museum, understanding what Alice does, all of those things, and now they're starting to put their ideas together. The Hangout was successful in achieving an area board grant, but that is to be planned and spent by the young people themselves. So we started working on the plan for that last week. They will be splitting that grant between training, so they're going to access some training that they want, and activities and projects out in the city, so off estate, so enabling them to participate in and engage in offers across the city that they wouldn't ordinarily be able to afford to do. Bishop Down Youth Club, we are commissioned to run that by Laverstock and Ford Parish Council. That's started. We've got sort of 12 to 15 regulars, although Jodie, who's running it for us at the moment, tells me we had another 3 sign-ups last week, so it's growing quite organically, based on the same model as the Hangout. And the LGBTQ youth group, you'll have seen a press release go out today. It's LGBTQ History Month, as we've already noted, and we are seeking to create new history in the city, making a youth space. It's been in various different forms. We feel like we've got it to where the young people we've been talking to want it to be, and Sherry's leading on that work. You will notice we're not publicising the location, so people can use the QR code, fill in a form, get in touch with them. We will get in touch with them. That's about creating a safe space, so that what we're not asking young people to do is out themselves by walking through the door at the time that is advertised on the posters, at the place advertised on the posters. But we have a really wonderful local community business who are supporting us in that work, which is fantastic. Next slide, please. There'll be more to come on this, but I just wanted to give you an overview of the work of the Youth Provision Forum. So we have been putting together, sort of by committee, with contributions from all of the organisations and people in the Youth Provision Forum, a pack looking at the creation of a network of safe spaces for young people with sort of minimum standards, a group of guiding principles, and bringing that group, a network of places and spaces together to identify training needs, ways in which they could perhaps buy training in all together instead of one little group of volunteers, and to promote one another's work, support that, signpost young people from one provision to the other, and then the ultimate goal being to encourage more people to have the confidence to create one of those safe spaces for young people, knowing that they will have peer support from across the city. So I've just given you an outline of the kind of the principles that have been brought together by the Youth Provision Forum, that everybody, it's around, I think 20 organisations have been involved in the conversation over time, that everybody feels represents what this is trying to achieve, but also that they can buy in, that aligns with the values of pretty much all of the youth organisations working in the city. So the next steps will be to do a consultation with young people about the language in the pack, because it's our language, not their language. How do they wish to be referred to when we're talking about safe spaces for young people? So that'll be the next step. We'll be working with Spurgeon's with a youth provision audit for the Salisbury area to make sure we've not missed anybody who should be involved in this process, and launch an expression of interest campaign in May, see who would like to join this network, bring them into the conversation. So really we're talking about the network perhaps being up and running in autumn of this year. Active lifestyles. Whilst we don't have a coach with us at the moment, there's plenty going on, and we will continue to have this as a core part of our main priority, which is improving people's well-being. So I've already mentioned Kids Love Fit, the Moving Monsters and Healthy Little Monsters scheme that they're doing. It's also worth mentioning, a very easy to miss part of our work is that we now have a boxing club running at the Friary, which has been supported by the team. So successful that one session has now doubled into two. We'll be looking at other youth sessions, and they have worked with us to focus their work on an anti-bullying campaign. So working with young people to grow their confidence, both verbally, so it's not just the physical work, it's also about how you talk about yourself and how you talk to others. And then we're just starting conversations with Kingdom of Sticks, that's Becky Twigg, to pull together a group of many interested people on the Friary who want us to help us get that garden looking lovely. And I know that Dot would cry if she saw it now. And that is largely about a lack of gardening expertise in my team, because it's not in the job description. So we're going to work out with other partners and put together a plan for this year to get that looking much nicer and used by more people. So Exeter House Vocational Centre will be working with us, and the Fijian Assembly of God, who are a prayer group who meet in the community centre on Sundays, who've already done a bit of light weeding for us without being asked. Yeah, so more to come on that project plan in the future. So we're here now looking at our pantry statistics. I should note, so if you just look at the graph first of all, we always have a dip in December, but that's because we're only open for 3 of the 4 weeks. So you'll notice the dip last year down to 249, the dip this year to 327. It's the same story we've had since the beginning. There is a slow and steady increase of service provision. Some of that may be about awareness, but what we're seeing on the ground is that that the people we're coming to are increasingly in crisis. And we've just had word that we'll be working with Wiltshire to also access emergency kind of voucher provision for supermarkets. That's come through another part from central government. We won't be the only organisation benefiting from that, but there's a little bit more sort of crisis management happening, which is why we're looking at this financial inclusion work alongside it. I think that just something to note, so our income and our grants income has met target. well, income projection has exceeded target. So if you look at our budget bottom line, you will see an overspend in the pantry, but we've an over income as well. So just to be clear, when you're looking at that, it balances out. So basically, it's just been more active than projected in this year. Again, it's another example. We are now having people come to us to support. So we were out and doing the asking, and now people are coming to us. So Love Salisbury, with Radio Ardstock having done the Christmas food drive, the Salisbury Radio have come to us to ask if they can do food drives with us and the food bank in the lead up to Easter. So that'll be happening soon. It's on a small scale, like Salisbury Gospel Hall Trust have a small shop. They're giving us their surplus. But larger stores, and this has been the work of Liz, our Wednesday manager, who's been on her feet around Salisbury, knocking on doors and being able to bring on board shops like Iceland with their donations, and also a preferential rate for some Christmas meat at Christmas, which was really nice for us to be able to do. If people aren't aware and haven't met them, Abby Blake and Liz Edwards are our job share pantry managers. They are doing a fantastic job, real sense of community cohesion through the volunteers. And I think that in general, the way the pantry feels incredibly connected out into the community now. The sixth formers of Bishops are out collecting our donations in the centre of town every week for us. It's just starting to really feel like it's not an isolated bit of crisis support, it's part of Salisbury. So it's in a really nice place. Any questions? I'll take a pause just there before I go on.
Councillor King.
I just nip back to the young people.
Yep.
I'm really excited, as you know, about the safe spaces for young people. That's really exciting piece of work. I just wondered about the Bishop Down Youth Club and why we're working outside the city boundary. And are they are they paying us money to do that work? Yes.
Yeah, we're being paid to deliver that service. But of course, the reason that we felt it was within our kind of community priorities to allocate our staffing to that, just one staff member, the funding also brings in coaches and stuff like that. But it buffers up right against Bishop Down. And so now that it's established, we will be doing work on Bishop Down to bring young people across into Bishop Down Farm to access that, and that's with agreement with Trudy at Laverstock and Ford. So hopefully we'll be able to bridge what is a little bit of a gap.
Anybody else got any questions? Councillor Hogg.
So the pantry, is the membership has gone up?
Yes. So we were settled for much of last year. The way we measure it, or the way our data management system does it, is it tells us how many active households we've got, and that means they've shopped within the last 9 weeks. It was settled quite nicely around a 350 mark. You know, some of those are with us every week and always will be, but there's a lot of movement in that. People who use us for a fixed period of time and then don't need the support anymore. But we have now suddenly had a massive uptick to 394 households. So that is now for the first time over 2,000 people benefiting in that 3-month period.
And that,
individuals.
And that gone up within the last 3 months, did you say?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. With the youth club, whichever youth club it is it solely exclusive for people from those areas, or can anybody? Because I think that's something that needs to be publicised more, because I have had people from Wessex Road area say that their kids haven't got anything to do and that it's too far. So
there's no exclusion, but the promotion will focus on those areas.
On those areas, yeah. That's good. And with the other, like the Downs CIC lives thing, and with the Kingdom of Sticks, working with them, it's actually nice because those people have actually come to us previously for grants over the years, and we've supported them. So it's nice that they've come back to actually do something back for us, that's really good. And it's great that you're making so many connections within the community and keeping that going. And well done to Abby and Liz for all the work they're doing. And Abby's no stranger to the council.
No, I
She
know.
used to work here before.
She's back. I think it's worth saying, though, that what is coming to bear is reorganising the roles to be focused on particular groups of people within the city has made that clearer for outside agencies and organisations, because if they are an agency or organisation who works with adults, then they know to get in touch with Jane. If they work with children, they know to get in touch with Hannah, and that's made all of these connections a lot simpler. So I just wanted to give you an idea that we're getting busy. This is all this is. The community centres, particularly at Bemerton, but increasingly at the Friary, are quite difficult to find space in now, unless it's a Friday. And just there's so many different people. I don't need to go into this in detail, but just giving you a sense of the different types of organisations who are using our spaces in different ways. And the range of opportunities that people can get through those kind of hard assets that we as a council have. And then lastly, I just wanted to remind you that I've spoken about 5 ways to wellbeing evaluation reporting, but that'll probably come at annual parish meeting time of year, once I've pushed a lot of surveys through a sieve. So we're looking at, this is our what's coming up next. So youth development exploration. So that is exactly what I was talking about. It's now, right, who is coming to Bishopdown? It's running, we know how it works. Who do we need to reach is the next step. Parent and baby well-being, I reported on that last time, but now running regularly. What's the next step there is referring to our other offers and to our other partners, making sure that when those parents don't have babies anymore, they've got something else to move on to and maintain those social connections. We've already mentioned the LGBTQ relaunch. Just reminding you that we are now signing the Safer and Supportive Salisbury lease on the 59 Catherine Street. So they will now be the tenants at the pantry, enabling us to run our service from their space, but running their own trustees meetings and some of their projects from there on the days that the pantry is not operating, maximising the benefit of the space for the community. I've already talked about Spurgeon's and the community cafe, so I'll skim over those. The Friary Lunch Club has been moved and merged into the community cafe, but what we're still getting is those people from the Friary but engaging in the lunch club app that now runs out of the community cafe. So that's been a real success, and the feedback is, you know, before it was 8 people in a community centre on their own, and now they're in a space with lots of other people, and it's been really positive. So I've already spoken to you about the Health Inequalities Fund, but there's a lot of work to do on that in getting those volunteers up and running and getting the resources they need. And then, as always, I will be continually seeking funding, particularly for the pantry. The pantry is in a really nice place. It's got some grants that will carry over the end of the financial year to make our April and May not too panicky. But it is a continuing and continuous job. And I always end with the last slide, just to remind us why we're here and that these are the priorities that we're working under. And that's me.
Thank you, Sarah. I don't think anybody's got anything else to. Oh, Councillor Wells.
Just one comment. I'm ashamed to admit this is the first time I've been to this committee meeting. I do have several other committees that I attend to, and I'm here substituting this evening. There were a few things here that I hadn't heard of before. Many of them I have heard of, quite certainly. But what it does for me, looking at everything that's been presented this evening, gives me a picture of a phenomenal amount of engagement for people that are vulnerable, and the overall impact on the whole community is very difficult to measure. But when you're looking at the growing concerns around mental health and people being lonely and vulnerable, the work that's achieved by the group of people that you've just spoken about this evening is immense and immeasurable. And it's, you know, a credit to you and everybody involved in your team that so much of this work is thriving, and the engagement is quite heartwarming to see people actually responding and putting things back into those groups so that it starts to grow. So fantastic. And I'm pleased that I came this evening.
Thank you. And I will make sure that that gets back to all of those people, because sometimes it's hard, and it's been a tricky January for them. We've had a lot of people that they work with who are ill, and it's been quite a challenge. So hearing that from this committee will be really important to them.
Thank you. And now we move on to the business and communications team update.
Thank you. Are you content for me to stay where I am?
I'm absolutely content with you where you are.
Thank you. Okay, well, apologies to those of you who saw some of these slides last week. Just have to beg your indulgence for a few minutes. We're just starting off here by having a little look back over the year at what the events team have been up to. St George's Day, our street sellers market, our 6-week pop-up Summer on the Square. We had a very successful post Salisbury event that lasted over 4 or 5 days at the end of September. And then, of course, there's the beautiful Snow Queen that joined us on the Christmas light switch on evening. And the one in the centre is our one of our light installations from our City of Stars. So hopefully that shows that we've had a lot of busy and successful events over the year. I'll just briefly skim over this slide. This is around our events expenditure, and you can see how I work with LOL at the beginning of the year to separate out a budget for each of the activities. And then you can see on the right the event expenditure. So the ones in red are overspends based on the budget, as you would expect, and the ones in black underspends. And so you can see over the course of the year, we do overspend on the events budget in order to provide the level of activity and the quality of activity that we put on. But as you can see from our events income, we considerably overachieve. So we've got a target of £40,000 and we've actually brought in 130,000 this year. There is that overspend, which you saw on the other slide. So it's an actual income revenue generation of 106,000, which is typical. That's what we've been doing over the last 3 years. And that's what enables us to do our things like our grotto, which aren't funded out of the general events budget. I just wanted to mention some challenges as we look ahead into 24 and 25. The Immersive Group are now out of contract with us, and they've been the ones providing the bar element at the summer and the Christmas activity. So that is a loss of income to us of around £20,000 a year. And that's important because it's that funding which enables us to build the infrastructure and to put on the event. So we'll need to think carefully about how we manage that this year going forward. I do have some ideas in the pipeline for summer and Christmas activity this year, and those are currently being costed. So as the committees roll on, you'll start to hear about those types of things. I also wanted to just mention the speculative nature of the type of activity that we put on over the summer and over Christmas, because what we try to do is put on things like the crazy golf, and they're obviously paid for activity, which then is what brings in the income and follows forward to being able to put on more and bigger Christmas activity. But of course that is speculative in nature. We don't know if it's going to be a successful or popular activity, and it heavily reliant upon things like the weather. So that's always a slight risk. These are complex operations that we put on over these 6-week periods, both in the summer and at Christmas. And when I've been in post, I've always felt very confident about the activity that we put on out there, because I know that I could go out there and put it on myself. If there were any, staffing issues or problems, I know that I would be able to manage that. But going forwards, as staff are changing, we just need to be very aware of that, I think. There's obviously the change in senior management in terms of myself, but we've also just losing one of our admin assistants also on the event side. So I think that we just need to be mindful of those challenges as we're starting to plan ahead in the next sort of 6 to 12 months. And I also just wanted to mention that the events work is very much collaborative in nature, and I've worked very hard to build up some very strong relationships with other stakeholders in the city. So when we think of events like Taste Salisbury, for example, that was successful because as a city we were able to put on something that was greater than the sum of our parts, if that sort of makes sense. So, the cathedral were putting on activity, Wiltshire Creative put on something, by all joining together, we're able to put on a bigger show for smaller budgets by individual partners. If we think about markets, looking back on 2023, we've had a really good year of growth and evolution. We've got a very strong base of core regular traders, and in the busy months we'll have 12 and sometimes up to 15 casuals per month, and they pay a higher pitch fee when they come, so that's always really good. I think we've got a very strong reputation now for our market. It's definitely grown over the last 4 years, and I think we see a very strong synergy between the events activity and the market. And by being well known for putting on good events and having lots of regular traders and hence lots of footfall, that's helps support the market because there's more footfall around, lots of people are coming. Traders talk to each other very much, so they hear that we've put on popular activity here. There was good footfall, takings were good, hence more people are interested in signing up and becoming our traders. So it's like a sort of a circle of life, if you like. So that's really good, and it means that we do continue to get regular applications for new traders, and we do have a bit of a waiting list for some of our more popular stalls. Street sellers, I think, needs some room for improvement. Over 2023, I didn't feel like our events, if you remember the street sellers, it's partially a market, but we also put on some kind of theme or activity to support the market. And the reason that we do that is because I'm trying to get families and individuals to come down regularly to that event. It's once a month on the second Sunday of the month. And I don't want the sort of people to start to think, oh yeah, we've been to that market. I'm trying to freshen it every single month so that people keep coming back. But I did feel that last year some of our themes weren't as strong as I would have liked them to have been. So in 2024, we're really going to work on that, and we think that there's plenty of room to get more traders and people involved in that. Our festive markets were extremely successful this year. We had over 50 traders for each of the Sundays, which was far exceeded the numbers that we've had before, and we saw a very good income raised from that. The disappointing thing about the Sunday markets was the weather, which was absolutely terrible for all of the Sunday markets. And unfortunately, the traders didn't do as well as they'd have liked to have done. So they were disappointing in the sort of atmosphere and busyness levels, but all the building blocks were in place. If the weather had been on our side, I think they'd have been very successful. And then thinking about the market, looking ahead to 2024, one of the biggest plans that we've got in the pipeline is to change the layout of the charter market. Luke Marsden, the markets officer, has been in post for a couple of years now, and he and I have both got ambitions around some changes that we'd like to see there. So he has got a large to scale map, and he's cut out lots of small pieces of card that look like stalls and is happily moving those around like a jigsaw puzzle on his big map to try and come up with a new layout. We'd like the stalls to face this way rather than going parallel with Blue Boar Row, which we think would help with the flow around the city as people come into the market square and also go over to support places like Brad Beers without it being a blockage and there being lots of vans against the street frontage and of course the bus stops. And we're thinking about maybe creating a food kind of area rather than having the food split out across the market. And we think now that we don't need so much of a wide walkways like we needed to introduce for coronavirus times, that we will be able to increase the trader numbers as well if we go for a rejig. As you can imagine, that's always a controversial thing to be talking about with market traders. They feel very much like they get very concerned that they're going to lose trade because regular shoppers know where to find them. And if they're not there, then, you know, there's concern that they will lose those customers. So we're going to go through quite a extensive period of consultation with them. We'll build up our proposed plan. And then we'll invite all the traders in to come and have a look. We'll talk about it. We'll take their feelings and viewpoints to mind. We have been talking about this with them for a good 6 months, 8 months maybe. So they're aware that this is going to happen. We're not getting too much pushback about it at the moment, but I'm sure that will be a developing story. And so yes, that should be hopefully an exciting project that Luke can work on in the next months. The teenage market happens 2 or 3 times a year. We're going to try and promote that a bit better. That felt like that was a little bit stale in 2023. So we're going to try to attract more people to take part. And Luke has got a bit of a campaign around some promotional material and things that he's going to do to try to encourage more youngsters to become involved in that, because of course it's great for their self-esteem. It's really interesting to see the sorts of things that they make and create, and we have performers there too, and of course they're then good feeders to move on to our becoming full-time traders or coming to our street sellers or something like that. The charter market target is 280,000 in income. It was 220,000 a couple of weeks ago when I wrote this slide, so it's coming in better than that. Over the weekend, we managed to gather in quite a significant amount of arrears. I think we are likely to fall slightly short of that target. I'm not 100% sure that I understand why that is. I think it will be close, but I think it will just come in slightly under that. But our other market income is doing well. We're actually on just 23,000, just over our expected figure. So that's looking good. If we move on here to the Guildhall, you can see that we've had over 200 paid bookings and 100 other functions over the course of 2023. And it's been really nice to see the real versatility of this building, all the different types of events that we've had, from the royal visit with the mayor's event to also the drum and bass night that we had here, opera, to some big, we had a multi-million pound company here that had a very exclusive party when the Guildhall was transformed. So that was really nice to see. And of course, we have the things that we put on ourselves. So the wedding fairs and the Health and Wellbeing Expo. So I think it's been a very successful past 12 months for the Guildhall. And the income targets are reflecting that. So currently, the income target for the inside is £50,000. And we will be at £89,000 at the year end. The outside income figure is not as cheerful. Asked to raise £20,000, but I think we're actually going to reach 12. And I think the reason for that is we've just slightly reallocated how we account for that income. So I think in the future, we'll probably want to reduce that target because some of the money is now going to other places, if that makes sense. And looking forward into 2024, we've already got a good level of business coming in, and we'll be continuing to promote the Guildhall. We've just had conversations with a company that specifically promote conferences and events, and they're some of our bigger income streams. So I'm hopeful that that will turn into some good bookings. And also just to mention that we will be hosting the Salisbury leg of the inquiry into the death of Dawn Sturgis. I have mentioned this, I think, on several occasions before, but just to remind you of that, that will be happening in October of this year. The Guildhall is actually booked for 3 weeks over that period. The inquiry itself is hoped to only be a week, but there's also got a week of contingency built in case of any difficulties. But I think that's a real positive that we've got that booking, and that's an excellent building to be sort of holding such a prestigious event. As we look back onto our communications output over 2023, we launched our new website, and I think that fresh and modern look has been really well received. I think that's turned out very well, and you can see that we've had a good amount of users since its launch, which is significantly up on the sort of older, more dated site that we had before. Social media followers do continue to climb, albeit slowly, but don't forget that it's not just our own social media, our own City Council social media that we run. We also contribute extensively to Experience Salisbury. And that's us communicating to our residents in different voices, not just the sort of corporate thing. Not everybody would be inclined to sign up to their local council's social media, but can easily access that information if they see it presented in a different way. And we've issued over 80 press releases. We also do lots of billboards, radio adverts, magazine editorials, flyers, posters, banners, etc., all the things that you would expect. So for 2024, we'll be aiming to continue to keep residents informed and updated, continuing on with our social media and our press releases. We'll be working on the artwork that all the other areas of my department and indeed the council are reliant upon. And I think that there will be a focus on increasing community engagement in the next few months, and Susie will work hard to help with that. And finally, if we just move on to the information centre, we have welcomed and served over 23,000 visitors over the year, and that is heading back to the kind of levels that we were looking at in 2017, which is really encouraging to see from a footfall perspective in the city. And just short of 10,000 phone calls, because don't forget the information centre is, of course, the switchboard for the whole of the council. We were very busy selling these things here, like the Stonehenge tour bus. The Mortlock guide is one of our most popular things. But of course, this year, in collaboration with the bid, we had a new map of the city created, which I hope you'll agree looks really special. And visitors are responding positively to that. But we've also supported a number of charities through Christmas cards, Scout stamps, trails, the Elf Trail and the Teddy Bear Trail. So all sorts of things that are also giving back to the community. Thinking forward to 2024, we are anticipating another busy year, and all our teams are currently getting ready to make sure they know all about what's happening in the city. We're doing lots of fam trips, going around and making sure that we've got all up-to-date information about what all our partners will be doing over the course of the year. They had a great team building event in the live escape rooms over at the Cross Keys. I think they would thoroughly recommend that as an experience to anybody that was interested. And we'll keep selling all the tickets and things that we normally do. The information centre team support the travel trade group that runs from here, and we've just attended excursions at Wembley a couple of weeks ago and made some really good contacts there. We're promoting all of the things that are happening in the city. Predominantly, really, people are interested in what's happening in 2025, but some of what's happening in 2024 too. Salisbury Shop Mobility, I think you'll see here, has really got some good statistics from the last year. A 30% increase in daily hires, I think, is really positive. And just goes to show that it's a service that's very much needed and wanted in the city. And I think it's really just about us trying to really promote the service a bit more, make sure that it's widely known. I think there's some good work that Vicky can be doing around going into surgeries and reaching out into the community a little bit more in the next 12 months. But you'll see that they've done lots of fundraising activities. We quite often have equipment donations and a number of volunteers that really keep that service on its toes. I should copy Sarah's technique of showing you how many hours they do, because I'm sure that would be an impressive number too. So as I said, hoping to build on the success of 2023 and get some more hires. We need some more volunteers, so we'll be looking out for that. We're going to do a bit more outreach on the market. That was very successful in 2022 when we did that, and we saw a big increase in hires. We didn't have the staffing to do that last year, but this year we'll be hoping to have a bit more presence out on the charter market again. The trouble with the information centre is it is just so tucked away, isn't it? It's different. You might not stumble upon it if you didn't know about it. So we very much actively have to raise the profile of it. But it also contributes very much to the community. We do lots of scooter scoots and work with St Thomas's Church quite a bit. So I think it's a really positive experience for those users who do access that. And I think that's the end of my presentation. If anybody has any questions?
Councillor Wells.
Not a question, just a comment. I think the idea of realigning the market stalls in the marketplace is a really good idea. And the thought that popped into my head when you said the traders might be reluctant to do that because their customers go to the same place every time. Well, I think they might all benefit from that, because when I go to my local supermarket and they move stuff around, I look at a whole lot more stuff than I usually do because it's not where I expected to find it.
Thank you. And we are going to, because we're mindful of that challenge, we are going to have more staff on the ground on those few days. I think we might have some blackboards out, pointing people to where the stalls are, so that, we can hopefully minimise the disruption.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Joe, for the presentation. I sat through it last week as well, and it was just as engaging as it was then. And also, thank you very much for all the work you've done. I think I remember having a conversation with you a couple of years ago about plans to really make our assets work for us, and you've just taken that and absolutely run with it. And seeing all of this, information in the report, the things that you've done and the things that your team have done, to make the Guildhall and the Market Square and everything, just put them to work has been fantastic. So thank you for that. I have a couple of questions. I read something on social media about how we're doing a Christmas market this year, and I wonder if we can shed any more light on that.
Yes, absolutely. So I've reported on it to EMG previously. It's a collaboration that I've been working on for quite a long time, probably nearly a year, I would say. We were approached by Mint Image, who are a company that work with us inside the Guildhall. In fact, they're one of our biggest clients. They bring in 20% of our revenue for the Guildhall. And they do craft fairs, and they're very, very good at it. They have a large business that they do similar things in other areas. And they were getting frustrated, I think, by the number of visitors that were coming over Christmas and asking where the Christmas market was. And they were really the only providers, because we'd stopped doing the chalets. And they came up with the idea of increasing the size of their craft fair by having it outside. So together, I've been having conversations with them where we've worked out a partnership agreement to basically put a craft fair outside. But we're trying to be a little bit innovative about the way that we do that, because I don't think it will be very well received if it's in a marquee. So we're going to build a structure with sort of wooden struts and a tented kind of roof with predominantly perspex sides, and a big sign saying Christmas market. And it'll be like an inside craft fair. They started first of all to advertise to their most popular stall holders, if you like, the ones they've got the biggest relationship with, in August of last year. So they've already sold a fair number of the weeks of traders. There'll be 32 stalls inside, and the whole structure will be up for 3 weeks. And traders are able to book in week blocks or for more than 1 week if they choose to. There's going to be a Wednesday changeover of stalls, so that won't be disruptive to any of the markets and things like that. It'll be fully staffed and run by them, so it's very risk averse for us. It's very light touch in terms of the management. Our main responsibility is to put the structure up, and that's the main cost to us. Although the partnership arrangement that we've got with them is that the costs are split 50-50, and so therefore is the revenue. So I'm anticipating that it should bring us in around £20,000 worth of revenue, possibly more than that. So I think for the effort that we're going to have to put in, the reward is quite substantial, I think, really. And we're also going to be answering that need that we all know exists in the community of where is the Christmas market? We want a Christmas market. So hopefully this will be a bit of a modern take on that.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Sorry, I had a couple of questions. Sorry. If we can have I don't want to talk about City Hall, but if we can have a drum and bass event in here, is there any space for the sort of thing that used to happen at City Hall? I know it's not quite the same size, but is there any room for comedy nights, or things like that moving forward?
Yes, and also no. We've done quite a lot of work on the costing of that, because that's sort of the germ of the idea, how we started with drum and bass. But it's really difficult to get a ticket price which will make us any money and be able to pay for the person that you want to come and have perform or act or do, because the capacity here means that we can't get enough people in to really make it particularly viable. We do have a bit of a plan in place this year. I think there's 3 or 4 events that we're thinking about trialling, which will hopefully break even. Well, it will break even and may bring in a small amount of money, just to sort of pilot that idea and just to see if we could get a bit of a name for ourselves as a venue doing those kind of alternative things. We think that there's particularly a market for what we saw really at the drum and bass night, which is maybe people in their, say, mid-30s to mid-50s who want a night out, but they want to go out, they want to have a good dance, they want to let their hair down, and then they're finished at 10:30 or 11 o'clock and want to go home. They sort of want to have that evening dance experience without ending up in a nightclub, which isn't quite for them anymore. So we think there's a bit of a market around that, but yes, the profitability of that is difficult.
Councillor Hock, then Councillor King.
Thank you. I echo what Councillor Charleston said. Joe and team, I have to say you've been tremendously good over the last few years. You're just getting the hang of it. And now we have to see you leave, which is rather bizarre shame, because yourself, Lol and Janine and Luke as well, real teamwork I've seen over the years. Few things. Yes, often a little change is always nice, refreshing the market square and things. But I think it's very important that people who actually pays, they should feel comfortable. All the traders, stallholders. Yes, you said you're going to have a consultation, but bring them in a way that they understand as well. Sometimes it's better to have that change. People like that freshness, and maybe if we can invest on a big board where we know even on that 2 corners, people can see where the traders are, things like that. It just brings out, and they feel comfortable as well. The council is actually looking after their best interest as well. Yes, and when it comes to social media, some of the element you've shown is positive. And I think those are the things we should shout about, because we have a fantastic page. I know the mayoral page as well, they often highlight. Is like, I'll give you example, for instance, even the shop mobility, 30% increase. You know, that gets to show that our city is, people are coming, people are using it. And those are the information, is like a bullet point people need to see, because we often see so many negative on our social media. So in order to overcome that, those are the, I think, I'm sure the panel will agree that those are the information would be positive for Salisbury City Council. People actually sees this is the change. Also, for instance, you know, our target was 50,000, but we surpassed that to 89,000. Small points, bullet points in social media, I think would be excellent. Now, through you, Chair, I mean, what I would like to also put forward to officers, if it is possible, you've done a fantastic job in Christmas, especially the Snow Queen and everything. The turnout was excellent. But I think 2024, looking ahead, is still early age. It is a community service meeting today as well. I really think that we should allow the community to come together one evening, local businesses and community, to actually give us their idea as what they would like to see or what we can do to improve when it comes to Christmas. Because sometimes the lighting issue or what we can achieve, there are bundles of people who are out there who's got great ideas. You know, and I think if the chairman allows, if we agree that we actually make a date, we welcome them one day and talk to them as what our plan is or what they can put on the table as well. I think that would be really good. It gives us a better thing that people think things that we have made them inclusive as well. So I would put that to you, Chairman. Hope you can consider this is something what the community wants to be involved in as well. And I've made several people promise that, look, you're always welcome to council, give us your view. That's what I would like to see. Thank you.
Thank you. On that point, I said in my opening statement that we welcome community input and ideas and things. And actually we did have it this year because my next door neighbour suggested having a community choir. So it was done on the square. He was there. He very kindly critiqued the event. And actually the plan for me as chair of this committee is that he comes in June and presents to us what his idea and how he wants that community choir to develop. And he will run it with support from the officers. So we're already doing that. With regard to the market, and I'll put my hand up, I have been the most critical about the lights because that's what residents have fed back to me. It is no sort of slight on the staff or how anybody's done it. It's just people's perception. So again, yes, you're right. We need the residents to come to us and get in early enough to be able to have that input. With regard to the charter market, yes, the charter market's there, been there for hundreds of years. The fair is the same, but we do need to change. We do need Luke with his models saying, well, maybe this will work better. We do need to have that collaboration and that understanding that you can't always get what you want. You have to cut your cloth to meet your need. Yes, we do make a profit. And it does need to come back, and we can make Salisbury brilliant, but it does need community input. And obviously Sarah's team and everybody else, everything that we've seen today is evidence that it does already happen, but it's just not ever appreciated by everybody in the way that maybe it should.
So thank you, Chairman. So on that note, so can we put a date or arrange a date when we can invite people to come in and give their feedback, so at least officers has plenty of time to work on that one? That's Joe want to do.
At Christmas 2022, we commissioned Insight 6, who have done lots of survey work for us here, to give feedback on the Christmas offering in 2022. Which I don't think was one of our best offerings. It was the year when we had a few chalets and we had the traders leaving and all sorts of shenanigans that caused me headaches going on out there. And So we got quite a significant amount of resident feedback from that. One of the things being that they really want a market. One of the things being that they would like Christmas activity, you know, to give them the Christmassy feel. And so as officers and also as city partners, we've been working together to try to make those things happen. These things take quite a long time, as you can appreciate. So we've now managed to get to the position where in 2024 we'll have a Christmas market. I've also got some ideas which I'll be leaving behind around what an activity element could be alongside that. So I think that we have been trying to listen to what people have said. It's just that it takes quite a long time to be able to make that happen, because obviously you've got to secure the budgets and we've got to get your approval and we've got to think about how to bring those ideas into fruition. So,
and the other thing to think of is actually the Christmas market and the carnival, which we don't actually have anymore, was two of the biggest incomes for the Mayor's Appeal. So we don't have that, but we've not got an alternative either. So that's something else that we should maybe build into the Christmas thing, is so that we do start going out with the buckets again to make sure that the Mayor's Appeal does get the maximum thing, because we haven't had, I mean, my mayoral appeal didn't reach anywhere near the proportions it could have, because we didn't, after COVID, we didn't have the carnival, and so we've lost so much. And I think that is also something that our residents do feel that we are lacking in. So yeah, we can work on it.
Can I just simplify a little bit more? As an officer, they often present to us as a councillor as what they're planning to do on the Christmas market and so forth. I'm just simply saying that we need to include the general public one day or one evening, that this is what the plan is for 2024 Christmas market. We invite you to present your ideas as well. So maybe if there is any leeway, officer can work on it. That way, it puts us in a good condition, a better position. The councillor has made their promise. They invited the people, local people. So this is what I want.
I'd be more than happy to do that, but it's whether that would be achievable to have any effect for this year, because we're kind of already planned. So if we set out to have a round table thing where we invited people in, we know what happened at whichever, what was the public meeting we did only recently, a few weeks ago? It was a handful of residents turned up. So actually, I'm more than happy to do that and come here and have tables and allow people that freedom to come in and say, but I bet you we'll probably have 10 people, because this is what happens. But you're right, if we offer them that chance, yeah, let's do it, if that's achievable.
I think if you're going to take that approach, which I completely understand why you would want to do that, you might just need to be very mindful of of your budgets, yes, because your Christmas lights, that's owned stock. You own those, so you can't change them every year. You'd have to sell them and buy new ones. So you'd need to just be quite careful about that. Your actual budget for what you actually spend on Christmas activity is quite small, and Christmas is really, really expensive, as we all know from our shopping, don't we? So I think you just need to be very mindful of not setting up expectations from the community which you just haven't got the budget to be able to do.
Carry on.
Sorry.
Sorry, Joe. Would you like to jump in quickly?
No, Joe, point taken. And we are certainly, I'm not here certainly making any promises, because if they want the London Eye to be here, it's not going to be possible. But what I'm trying to say is just to put the officers in the picture, councillors in the picture. This is our plan for 2025. If this is the budget we have, unless they've got a tangible thing that they can put onto the table, our job is done, that we have invited them. So we're not going to make any promises, simply making a night to invite them. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's fine. Councillor King.
Thank you. I don't think it matters whether we have 5 people here or 10 people here or 100 people here. If people are given the opportunity of having an evening when they can hear the plans that are going to be in place, unless something else comes up or unless they can suggest something else. I think it's an opportunity. It's being open, I think. So I'd like to support that if we could. It doesn't need a lot of staffing. It just needs a few of us councillors and a few staff just to hear what people are saying, because I think I actually disagree with some of the stuff which was around the media at Christmas time. I thought, Joe, that you and your team made our city more beautiful than it is. The lighting on some of the buildings, the lighting along the riverbanks, was absolutely astonishingly beautiful. And having lived in London, I've seen all the London lights, as you have too, haven't you, Sam? But actually, I thought that it enhanced our city beautifully. And I was really pleased, Joe, that you're not standing still, although I know that you're moving on, but you're looking ahead. And, you know, the income from the Guildhall, you're recognising that so much more can be done. And I think that's good, because I think this could be quite a good income bringer in. So well done and thank you.
Councillor Charleston, then Councillor Wells.
Yeah, thank you. And I will absolutely echo what Councillor King has just said about how wonderful the Christmas lights were. But we have a mechanism by which members of the public can come and hear what the plans are for Christmas, and if necessary, or if desirous, have their say. And it's called the Events, Markets and Grants Subcommittee, or indeed this very committee that we're sat in right now. And I made this point at the time. I thought it was pretty disingenuous of the Salisbury Journal to be shock horror, look at what the plans are for Christmas, and there's an empty press table every single night that we have this meeting, the Events and Grants meeting. They could have attended, as could any member of the public, and seen what the plans were and had their say much earlier. And to hold their hands up in shock and go, we were not told, is well, pretty disingenuous, as I say. They could have been here. They are invited to every meeting. They could make more of their platform. These meetings are open. That's all my point is.
Thank you, Councillor Wells.
Yeah, and it's very much on a similar theme about public opinion. I mean, I spoke to lots of people about the Christmas lights. Maybe I've got a very narrow range of friends, but none of the people I spoke to said, I don't like the Christmas lights. And I think if you get a dozen people saying they don't like them and objecting to them, there are probably, for every dozen people that say that, there's probably several hundreds that actually quite like them and don't say anything about them and walk on and just enjoy them.
Okay. I think we've been given a model for this. I think with this idea of community conversations as a phrase, we've had a model with people from working with the youngsters. We can do that. We ought to be thinking, we could do that in different ways and be available to talk anytime, not necessarily. I don't think you get people coming here very easily. But, you know, some of the conversations that we had around of things over the last year where, you know, local plans and all that kind of thing were coming up, all those sorts of things were taken in conversations out there and then brought back in here. And I think this is quite not necessarily the place to put it to begin with. This is where you end up and you have the final thing. And so I just like that model very much.
Thank you. I've lost my train of thought. Article, go for it.
Can that be minuted, please? Yeah, the proposal, and I think Councillor Wells, you're right. A lot of people I've spoken to as well. It's not actually, they're not complaining about the light. It just lack of something was missing. It was like the light, in a sense. You know, it felt a bit bland. That's all. I think that's what they're trying to say. But apart from that, light was perfectly fine. It's not, but the market made it up. So my proposal, can that be minuted, please?
Well, I don't know if we can do that, can we? Because nothing's been tabled. It wasn't presented in that way before. Janine, help.
No, it's not something that can be voted on or resolved this evening, but it's something I can note that some members of the committee wish to think about public engagement or for public discussion more at the next meeting, for example.
Or could, when there's any more comms going out, because obviously comms go out all the time, is to turn around and say, please email and put my email on it if you like, because I chair this committee and I can just to make it me as visible as possible to say, okay, her ears are open, she's listening, and then I can then field it back. I'm more than happy for that. I don't mind that in any way, shape or form. And I think we've kind of got it. But on my last point, Charter Sunday from a councillor perspective was awful. There was only 5 of us. And as there's 24 elected members, we have very few statutory things to do. And I think our civic responsibility is what our residents want. I know Sunday wasn't very busy out in the city, but I think we do need to make sure that we are being present for our residents. So we want resident engagement. But where's our engagement and commitment? We need to make sure that councillors are held responsible and do hold up to a civic responsibility on whatever day the civic thing happens.
I second that, Chairman. I second that.
Thank you very much. I think that's it. We can all go home.
April 8th. I think that's the best time to shine, Chairman. So we invite everybody on 8th of April. So they get there.
Okay. What I'll do then, you can go on the radio, every radio station, and say, we want you there on the 8th of April. I'll do the same. All my social media, Councillor King, we can get, everybody put it on their social media and say,
Yes.
we've got this meeting. And we'll wager a bet and I'll put it into your pot, okay?
Thank you very much.